How's it going, guys? Today I want to show you how to make some low poly stones or rocks in Blender with just a really simple and really quick method to do it somewhat randomly but still have them look kind of nice. So you'll end up with something like this. All you do is you just launch Blender. I'm using Blender 2.9 and I'm going to start a new project and take it from scratch. So we're going to delete this initial cube with the delete button while it's selected, and then we're just going to add a new mesh. We can go up here and go add mesh icosphere. I want to make sure we do an icosphere. You can also do Shift A and go get that menu. So once you have an icosphere, it looks all right, right? Not quite stone enough, too circular for a stone. So what we want to do is go into edit mode. So you can either click up here, go to edit mode, or just press tab. Tab switches to it. And you'll see it by default has all the vertices selected. So you want to make sure that they're selected. If they're not, you can press A for select all. And what you want to do next is just subdivide this a couple times. So right click, subdivide, and go down here to the menu. And it says number of cuts 1. Let's change this to 2. We could do even more if you want finer detail. I like 2. It's not too high of detail. That it's not a million vertices. So there we go, looks pretty good. We only got one vertice selected. We want to make sure we select them all for this next step. So I'm going to press A to select them all. Now what we're going to do is randomize these vertices. And you can just right click and go to randomize vertices. So there we go. Do that once, maybe do it twice. Right click random again. You can also right click and press R to do it quick. So there's 3 times. And the more you do this, the more crazy it's going to start looking. That might be a bit much, so I'm going to undo it a couple times. Alright. Because I don't want these vertices going inside the object. That's going to make it look weird. So what you want to do next here is just smooth it. So that was one randomization and then one smooth. And you might want to repeat this just a few times. So randomize, smooth, randomize, smooth. So after doing that a few times, you start to develop sort of a random rock shape. And that's really the whole point here. And you can play around with this smoothing a little bit, depending on how you want your rock to look. But I'm just going to randomize it a few more times, smooth it a few more times, randomize again, smooth again, and maybe one more smooth on this. There we go. That's starting to look pretty decent. Decent little random stone there. And now we just want to add a rock texture to this. And for doing that, we're going to be using a free image editor called Gimp. It's sort of like a Photoshop replacement. And we're just going to make a simple rock-like texture. So I'm going to go to New. I want to make this 512 by 512. That's a small enough texture that it won't be giant. You can make it whatever size you want, but I like 512 for starting out and testing. So what we're going to do here is just a little bit of randomizing to make a rock-like texture. So we're going to start by going up to Filters, and then Render, Noise, Solid Noise. And this gives us sort of a cloud-like pattern, and we're going to increase the detail a little bit because I feel like that looks more rocky. And maybe depends how you want on this size, what kind of rock it is. We're going to stick with about 4-ish, 4.7 sounds good. And we can also play around with these two. Tile, turbulent. I kind of like this turbulent. Yeah, I'm going to click this turbulent for this one. So one of the points of this is you can kind of play around with it. Now we're going to add a new layer. We're going to leave this one as it is. Go to Layer, New Layer, or you can press Control Shift N. It's going to leave it all default there. It should be the same size. And we're going to add some kind of random stuff to this. For this, we're going to go to the bucket fill. So you can do that with Shift B, or you can click up here and go to it, Shift B. And we're just going to go to pattern fill and pick one of these patterns. I like this slate, so we're going to click slate. And then we're just going to click in here to fill the whole area. Now, of course, it covers up this old background, which isn't exactly what we want. But that is okay. We can just reduce the opacity of this layer a little bit for that behind one to show a little bit. And we see we already are getting a sort of a rock-like texture, which in my opinion doesn't look too bad. So there's a lot of layering and playing around you can do with here to get it to look even better. But I'm already decently happy with how this is. So I'm just going to merge these together, merge. So there we have sort of a rocky looking texture already. Now this is a little bit bumpy, so I think maybe adding a little blur would be nice. So I'm going to go to Filters, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and increase the size a little bit, maybe to about 4.5 or 5. Let's go with 3.5. That looks okay. I'm going to go ahead and tile seamless. There we go, tile seamless. Didn't do much, but just in case, just to make sure. So if we zoom out, we can kind of get a feel for it. And that's just a very simple rockish texture. There's so many different things you can do to play around with to get rock-like textures, so I don't want to go into too much detail or play around too much because this will just take forever. So now we just want to export this. Let's go to Export, save it wherever you want. Make sure you know how to find it. I'm going to put it in a Created Images folder, call it Rock Text 4. Hit Export. And then we're going to go back to Blender. So back in Blender, we just want to make sure we have this all, we're on this icosphere, and then go to Materials. And it doesn't matter if you're in Edit or Object. I'm actually going to go back into Object though. And okay, Materials, New, and it gives you a default one of a principled BSDF. So we're just going to hit this base color dot and then go to Image Texture and then Open. And then we're going to go to where we saved that. And I know it's called Rock Text 4. There it is. So I'm just going to pick that. And it applies it. You can't see it yet. You got to put this in rendered mode to be able to see it. And you can do that by clicking these little circles up here. One of these is rendered. I'm not seeing it. But if you're not seeing it, you can just press Z and then go to rendered there. And there you go. That is our rock with the texture applied. We could use a few more lights, so I'm going to copy paste this light and move it over. Paste again, move it over. And there we go. And then when you're ready, you just export it. Export, OBJ, save it here. I'm just going to call this rock. And now that I know where to find it, I can use it in whatever I want. Use it in my game engine, I can use it in scenes of anything. You can drag it into Unreal, you can drag it into Unity. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you were able to make a stone. Yeah, let me know what you think below. Peace out, guys.